Hello, bunkmates, and welcome back to another Percy Jackson and the Olympians review. This is episode 8. So yeah, we start off with start the Ares fight off with Lou talking about how, look, you didn't have to be a half-blood, and sort of that leading into the Luke training him with the sword, teaching him how to be good at it, which is good because this whole time I was Percy. I was kind of like, are they gonna show Percy fighting with the sword? Because that's gonna make it really hard for me to believe that Percy, who we didn't see have any sword training whatsoever, be more believable. Because even with the Clarice fight, it was kind of hard to believe that he could beat her too, because we didn't have any training. So it's good that they put there at least to make that believable. With the flashback, that was good. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worrying that they weren't gonna do it, because I was very worried. And of course, Percy challenged Ares to a duel. Ares is cocky about this whole sort of thing. It's like, yeah, I'll kill you, and that cockiness sort of leads him into the revelation of dream sort of things. Things of like, look, gods don't have dreams, okay? Things sort of thing, revealing that into them. He fights, but I was like, wait, no, given the necklace from Annabeth, but that does get given to him later. So that's good. And then we of course see him during the fight, and then Percy, when he's down, he tells her, look, I told you not to mess with me, and you did, and then he just releases a tidal wave, and it comes crashing down on Ares. That's so cool. Well, of course, with that, it ends up leading to Percy slicing Ares' calf. He, of course, starts to reveal his true form. They turn away, he's gone, which I would have liked the Ares fight to go longer, but it was better than the Medusa fight, so there's that. And of course, we find out that, they're on Montserrat by the cabin, which one sort of ties back into Percy wanting to be home, sort of a place where he always felt at home with his mom, and also one from how quickly you have with the limited amount of runtime they have. It also makes sense to put them there and not have to deal with the whole plane thing. I mean, they could have still mentioned like, okay, let's go take a plane sort of thing when they arrive, but this works fine. And whatnot. And then of course Mrs. Dawes or Electo comes and gives to get the helm. Whereas real, oh yeah, that's what she was always here for. But like, I mentioned this before, that like they go with the cheesy that about her getting turned into a statue, even though it broke. It's still like, I still think they shouldn't have turned her into a statue, because it just, there's this whole thing of like, well, How, well, does breaking the statue, is that what kills you, or it's just gonna turn into a statue what kills you, like, sort of thing, you know? Like, it's one of those things where I feel like because she came back, it's not really what broke. It's not very clear about how the statues work. I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to read too far into this and figure out, oh, that's, and trying to figure out Medusa's powers and how killing it is. That's just you turn to stone, you die. But that's no. But regardless, her just standing there and then going to turn to stone makes absolutely no sense. Um, and then of course, when Percy's like, look, I need to go give the bolt back in hopes that will start the war or sort of thing. They try and persuade him not to, but it's like, no, I need to go. You guys go tell Chiron, sort of thing. And then, and then I was like, okay, here, I'll give you the necklace for good luck. So it's still there, but it's one of those things where it's like, well, it's still there, which is still given, I guess is the good thing, though I feel like it still would have been sweet to give the necklace to Percy before then, but it was at least done. That's the important thing. He we of course see him go into the security guard with towards beside to give Zeus slime bolt back. The security guard doesn't have his book when he says Shenlina bolt, which it would have been interesting. Which, I mean, they didn't even have to like show the whole thing. They could have literally just have shown that he was closing a book, because in here it doesn't even have to be anything of pop culture. It could literally be an old book too. Like, you know, it could have been, I don't know, Dracula, something from Charles Dickens, old things like that. I don't no, they could have given him something, I feel like. It's not a big deal, the fact that it doesn't get a book, but I just find it interesting. It's certain that, like, oh, they didn't give him a book, which would have been an easy prop to give. And then, of course, when he does that, and is led up to the 600th floor, go back to the flashback where they're sort of explaining more about the relationships between gods and demigods, and that, to make a comparison of like, oh, yeah, we're dangerous and they're afraid of us, he used an example of Annabeth being scared of spiders, which I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it, because they're doing a lot of showing and not telling. Sorry, telling and not showing for a TV series, which is where showing is a lot more meaningful than telling in a story. Right, where they're telling us Annabeth has a fear of spiders instead of showing it. They're telling, you know, we're finding out about the reveals of who people are too quickly to where the point to where the only satisfying reveals I felt was the Ares reveal and also Echidna. Just like, I get the point you're trying to prove, but like, I wish it didn't come through, like, you know, telling us that Annabeth was afraid of spiders instead of showing us, like, really, like, that's one thing that I hope they fix if we ever get future seasons. That they do less of this telling and start showing us more, sort of thing. And then another thing, of course, for future seasons that they make the fight scenes longer, that I've been pretty sure the only thing I've liked is the fact that most of the episode it's chasing them, which I like. And of course when he starts walking towards Zeus to give Zeus the Bible, Zeus is the only one there, which is weird. I feel like at least some gods would be there, at least, you know, bickering or whatnot, but maybe the movie, because I feel like that was the case in the books, where at least some of the gods were there. There, I guess, but it's fine. And then, but I remembered at least Poseidon was there, so I was wondering where he was, and honestly, him coming in later made things so much more impactful, so I'm kind of fine with Poseidon not being there, honestly. It made for a way more memorable change. Yeah, and then, of course, Percy returns his bolt, Sir tells him, oh yeah, Cronus is there. Sir gets um, annoyed with Poseidon, started lecturing him about, hey, look, your family is going to, it was like, hey, look, your family's not going to remain loyal while Cronus is there. And basically, they're not like, hey, look, they're afraid of you. It's quite possible that they'll just desert you. Which the minor gods do later in the series. So it's one of the things where it's like, he's not entirely wrong. They do leave. Of course, at that point, this is ready to just full on kill Percy. And Poseidon immediately steps in to stop his brother. I was like, don't do it. Don't kill my son. I surrendered. Please just spare him. And I do hope that they do show that a bit more of Poseidon, and at least, like, not how to not sympathetic. Like, they be careful not to make him seem too sympathetic, because that's what the movies did, and I know they're hard to step away from movies, but they're kind of making some of the same but they're kind of making some mistakes. That's by trying to deviate as hard as they could. But one main thing about it, that Poseidon is definitely meant to be like a morally great father figure. Like, yeah, he's better than some of the gods, but he's still not great, and still needs to get some things to work on, which they do show it a little bit better, or later on a bit, but yeah, Zeus and Poseidon talk about who else knows about Kronos. So that Zeus is just listening to a few people, and Poseidon's like, so everyone knows. And Zeus is like, yeah, everyone, which is great. That's just so like, yeah, everyone knows. Knows this isn't a secret. And the end's just like, okay, fine. Fine, I'll spare him. Just make sure I never see him again. I'm like, Zeus, you're gonna see him again. Because because the Titans curse, you see him again. And then also, in the last Olympian, you see him as well. Well, and of course, Percy's like, I only caught one word, but that means father, right? And sort of saying like, oh, yeah, I didn't catch most of that. I'm like, Percy, you need to study Greek more. So hopefully that's something in the future where we see Percy knowing more Greek, or at least enough to pick up conversations. It's better. We'll see. Not a big deal, but it would be interesting for Percy to know more Greek. And then Percy, the famous obedience doesn't come easy to you, so he doesn't get like to be restrained line, which is cool. And then of course Percy is just hits me once again in the feels by asking about if Percy sorry, not asking Poseidon if he has dreams about his mom and whatnot, and Poseidon just sort of gives him a sad look and uses a pearl to send him back to camp, which I do hope, which I don't think the pearls ever got brought up again besides book one, and I do sort of hope that in season 5, in the last Olympian, that's how Poseidon sends Percy back to camp when he visits the palace. He just throws a pearl. He just uses a pearl. Well, because that would be a little bit nice continuity as well as like, well, those pearls are never really come back again. I'm fairly certain. So it would be a slight nice way to bring them back. And of course, we have campers cheering on for saving and stopping the war. Or Percy's like, wait, why is Clarice? Are you still here? And they sort of explain, oh, well, if he had accused her without any proof, things would have been way worse. So Luke's like, here, you and me come and explain to Chiron, and we'll explain it, and that's how he betrays Percy, which, while originally it's just, oh yeah, Percy's trying to figure out what he wants to do, and then he meets up with Luke, and they start meeting each other and explain. That's honestly what they end up doing here is a lot more emotional, which I really like the change that they made. Yeah, and then and of course, once Percy and Luke are away, Luke sort of reveals that he's a thief and is like, look, I never thought you'd give them to Grover. I wasn't trying to kill you. You sort of thing. And Luke is trying to bring Percy to his side. And then, of course, or it sort of shows, oh, look, this is the way out of camp. It demonstrates, oh, and just sort of cuts, and there's a blue line and whatnot. I was like, did Backfire always have this power, or was it a show thing? I didn't look this up, and it is, and in the first book, he does do that and then leaves him to the Scorpion, and which they didn't do the Scorpion, which is fine. This is much more emotional. Oh yeah, I hope, which, although I don't think that ability ever got used later in the series, so maybe that's something they'll utilize more. I don't know. No, but it's good to know that it was a book they making it into the show. Yeah, and of course, Percy. He mentions, look, I met your dad, and Luke goes from wanting to recruit Percy to killing him in an instant. Like, he is that quick to where he tries and kills Percy. And the only reason why he doesn't is because Annabeth throws a dagger at him and reveals that she's there and that she heard everything, and that causes Luke to be like, which is so much more painful because he realizes, oh, she found out and didn't want it to happen that way, so he just runs and leaves. Which is so much more emotional, and of course, it's later, the final day of camp where they're leaving. Mr. D is still messing with Percy about his name. It's like, oh, are you sure it's Percy? I'm pretty sure it's Peter Johnson. And it's great. I love it. And of course, after that, and Percy's talking with Annabeth, like, oh, did you tell her everything? And whatnot? And she's like, oh yeah, we're going to Disneyland. My father showed me New York. I'm gonna pretend that I haven't seen that. I'm like, you don't need to pretend. I'm like, technically you don't need to pretend. You could just say, hey Dad, I've seen a good amount of these sort of things. And just cut short. I don't know. Anyway. Of course, Grover comes and announces that he has a searcher license, which I didn't think the searcher's license would be a flower, but, it makes more sense that they would go with, I guess it kind of makes sense that they would go with a flower and not, like, plastic or something that would create more waste, so, because that's what I was originally thinking, it would just be a car that says search or whatnot, but, that works. And of course, oh, sorry, no, that's when he cuts in before, she's like, oh yeah, just taking me to Disney, which is cool, and the person's just like, look, just be a kid, like, you didn't have much of childhood experience, and of course, we see Sally and Percy reunited on the Mott's Bay, and only to realize that, oh no, it's a dream sequence with Cronus and sort of almost like, oh yes, I am hoping that you survive. Because you might be the person who brings me my victory, sort of thing, being ominous. Yes, and of course, the Percy was just being precisely like, look, I won, okay, give up. But it's just, I love his preciseness, it's great. And of course, the prophecy for Shaman is great, and then of course, where Sally wakes him up and he's like, oh, I had a bad dream, which he calls Crow's grandpa, and I know in one of the books, he's like, it's weird to think about Cronos as my grandfather, so I try not to, sort of thing. So it's weird that he calls Cronos grandpa in this, which it is nice that Sally is trying to help Percy remember what he says, but of course, I love how he turns it into a sweet thing by him telling her that he loves her, sort of thing. Which of course she knows, oh, that's not what he said, but she still likes it anyway. And yeah, it ends with them going getting ready for 7th grade. Percy sort of doing a voiceover saying, look, if you're a Half-Blood, come, we're gonna need you for the fight ahead. So of course we get the credits with them putting in the memory of Zeus's actor Lance. I know it starts with Lance, and I should have written that down. But yeah, I'm really glad that they did that. So the person who, well, actually no, Zeus doesn't show up in season 2. So unless they decide to throw him in, they got until season 3 to recast someone, but whoever they choose to recast has big shoes to fill, because he had a presence. And then, of course, they have Smelly Gabe introduced by him opening the mail to see what he got. Which, I mean, it's not Sally openly committed murder, but he still turns into stone, which is great. So, I get why he can't have Sally commit a murder, but it's also one of those things where it's man, and that was one of the cool things we're gonna do. Is basically, Versailles just basically is like, yeah, honey, I'm gonna kill you with Medusa's head now. It's great. But yeah, I am curious. What's gonna happen with Medusa's head? But that doesn't really need to happen. I'm assuming they at least sell it and get some money. But yeah. But yeah, episode 8 definitely left off on a banger. Or I don't know if it's I'm not sure if it's my favorite episode yet, but it's definitely one of my top 3. Right, but yeah, hopefully next season they get either more episodes or allow for the runtime to get longer, because otherwise they're gonna run into similar problems with the fight scenes not being as long as I would like, which hopefully that's the case, and also give them time to reveal more of the monsters. I'm more so leaning towards just give more episodes, because especially for like the Labyrinth and the Last Olympian, those are much longer than the first 3 books, so where if they're only in 8 episodes, you're probably gonna have to do 2 seasons for those, which is just gonna make them age up quicker, which is problematic. So, but if this was an animated series, they wouldn't have to worry about that. They could honestly stretch it out as far as they want. But since this is live action, that's not the case. So yeah, hopefully season 2 they get longer run times or more episodes, so that way we can have longer. So that way the main problems I was having in season 1 where they just reveal who the monsters are way too quickly, doesn't happen, and also so that we get longer fights. And hopefully they also and hopefully if they do make changes, they make them that makes more sense, because Electro getting turned into a statue makes absolutely no sense. What is she saying there? But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and yeah, and we'll see if I do this again. I might do some prediction videos sometime in the future about what could happen with I think it was the 3-headed goddess or something. And that's the next book, whoever came after Chalice of the Gods. I was gonna do some theories about what I think is gonna happen for that book. We'll see. But yeah, till next time, wise up.